Okay, the Central Bank of Eswatini, CBE, has announced its decision to grant a provisional license to a new entrant in the banking sector. Letshego Eswatini Bank in Organization, LEB, currently operating as Letshego Financial Services Eswatini. Now, the central bank is on a drive to attract more banks into the country. But what does this mean for the local business community? Today, we sit down with Business Eswatini's Chief Executive, Inathi Dlamini, who shares his insights on these latest developments.
CEO, welcome to Market View. Thank you for joining us today. We have seen the Central Bank of Eswatini, Mr. Dlamini, granting a provisional license to a new entrant in the banking space, to Letshego. So we basically want to know your reaction as the business community to the move by the Central Bank. We know that the Central Bank has said it is looking to grant more of such licenses to more banks in the country.
Okay, first of all, as the Business Eswatini private sector of this kingdom, we note that the Central Bank has issued a license to Letshego. First of all, Letshego is well known to us. They've been in the country for over 20 years now. And I've been, tracking their asset book. It's been growing phenomenally. Over 3 billion malangeni already, which means it's quite big. So I think they were just ideal poised at this time to convert into a banking institution. So we just want to, firstly, to congratulate them on being granted the banking license, which then will bring the number of banks in this country maybe to four. Probably 5 with maybe Eswatini Building Society, who have also applied for a license to convert. In fact, we had expected that SBS, Eswatini Building Society, would be the first one to be granted a banking license. So, so it's something that I believe is still in the pipeline. But we congratulate them for that. What's going to be the impact? The impact of this can be quite profound. Letshego has been known to have strengths in very, very not so traditional markets. In this country, we have what you call the unbanked masses, and then you have what you call the underbanked. And I remember very well, even companies like Momo tried to bring those into the net, but still MTN doesn't offer banking services. And I'm hoping that Letshego, with their strength and their footprint in the country, will then explore and exploit that huge niche market of underbanked and unbanked masses. And if they do that and do that successfully, then we can say now the country, in terms of financial inclusiveness, we have reached the pinnacle. That's what we are worried about, the inclusivity in financial service, inclusivity in terms of access to finance or financial products. And I'm hoping that Letshego will meet or rather fill that void as they come in.
This is obviously a great move by the Central Bank of Eswatini. When I saw the post yesterday morning, I was excited myself because I thought of financial inclusion. But I want to understand from you, what do you think this means, especially for small and medium enterprises in the country? I know that maybe Business Eswatini is a big entity that handles large organizations, but I also know that you have small and medium enterprises here.
In fact, by the way, we have more small businesses under this roof than we have big companies. I think the smallest business we have in BE, they hired only 2 people. That's quite small. That's very, very, very small. So we are well au fait with the challenges of the small businessmen, as it were, and that's why we are hoping, and we are also acutely aware that most traditional banks tend to be risk averse, extremely. And they can afford that because it's a huge market. And I'm hoping that Lecheco, I think Lecheco's risk appetite, based on what we have seen, is slightly higher than the traditional banks, which means they're willing to take more risk than the other banks. And the sector that I'm talking about now, for small businesses, it's sort of a risky sector, as it were. And it needs a bank that will have the commensurate amount of risk appetite in order to explore and exploit it to the level that we wish that it will exploit. Structurally, the financial sector itself will not change as a result of a new entrant per se. But in terms of service delivery, financial service delivery, you will see the impact, particularly on small businesses.
I know, CEO, that before the central bank made this move, a lot of research was done. I think I read the first write-up that they did when they were telling the nation about this move to introduce more banks in the country. I think it was months ago, but I want to understand from Business Eswatini, what safeguards or policies would you like to see in place to maintain a level playing field for all the financial institutions in the country?
We don't believe too much in regulation, because we think regulation tends to stifle competitiveness. Besides that, we feel that already the field is already level anyway. And as such, let the best bank win out there. And like I say, we believe there is so much, there has been always space for a new entrant like Lecheco. Probably there is even space for another bank to come in. Bringing the total maybe to 6 commercial banks in this country. Like I said, whoever wins are the consumers themselves, which means access to finance will improve dramatically because of a new entrant who's focusing on markets that have hitherto been ignored. That's one thing that we're excited about. And I think Lecheco will do that. And by the way, while we think also confident about them, you must remember that all of 11 countries in Africa, or even more. And also remember that they've converted 6 of those institutions now already into banking institutions. So they bring a wealth of banking experience from their African operations, bringing them into Eswatini, converting into a bank. So I think it just works well for them.
Appreciating everything that you have said, CEO, in this conversation, my mind quickly jumps to issues of unemployment. Eswatini having such a small population, I'm thinking if more banks are allowed in the country, will we be able to handle that as a nation? Because most of Emaswat are unemployed, especially the young people. If we have more banks, won't there be saturation in this financial space? Because bakhona nema cooperatives, tikhona naletinye tinhlangano lesetibolekisa ngemali, uma ubuka kutawuhamba kanjani vele lapho?
That's a professional view that you've mentioned, because if there are too many institutions who provide funding and probably provide them to the same market, and then there might end up being a saturation, right? But on this one, we're talking about deposit-taking institutions, right? I am aware that you have some of these stokvels, we have some of these pension funds who have begun also to provide facilities, in fact, structured finance facilities and investments. they are doing that because there was a shortage or a gap in the market anyway, because that's not their traditional business. They usually, these people invest in equities. They invest in businesses, not loaning money to institutions, and they've started doing that. And we have 1.2 million people, and we have big banks, most of which are concentrating on bigger businesses because they are keenly aware of the risk factor on the smaller businesses. In fact, that's why the central bank now they have a scheme, a small enterprise guarantee scheme, because they were saying there is a big gap here. Can I guarantee half of those facilities so that you can begin providing facilities to smaller businesses? And as you are already well aware, the scheme is not working very, very well because banks now still insist, I want collateral for the other 50%. And then comes a new entrant like Jaco with a risk appetite that's much higher than the traditional banks. All of a sudden, you begin to fill that gap on provision of facilities to smaller businesses. That's what we hope it will achieve by their entry into this market. It won't saturate anything. Like I said, I think we have room for one more institution without causing any saturation at all.
CEO, thank you so much for joining us on Market View. You are highlighting that this move by the central bank is especially important because it will promote financial inclusion. Iphindza iqinisekise ukuthi nanawa eMaswati mhlawumbe lete timali letinkhulu nawo sekatawukhona ukuthi kube khona la ngena khona ekuboleka khona ekusitakala khona. Siyabonga kakhulu CEO kuba nathi ehlelweni lamuhla.
32 minutes after 2, we have eaten time that is not